Alright guys, M-Tech Guy here, and today we'll be taking a look at the E30, and this will be a continuation of the last video where we're taking a look at the heater blower. So the problem I've been having ever since I bought the car is the heater doesn't work on any of the settings, and this is something that came up on the pre-purchase inspection. Now initially I thought it might be the blower motor resistor. It's very common on these cars for them to fail. I have had an old E30, a 318i, a few years ago. I used to daily drive and the resistor failed on that one. It may or may not have been contributing to the issue, but nonetheless I wanted to get it replaced because the car's new to me and I just wanted a brand new one in there anyhow. So we went through the steps to replace the blower motor resistor. Unfortunately, it didn't really resolve the issue, so from there on dug a bit deeper and we gained access to the blower motor itself and found that it was pretty much seized up. Now it's 35 years old, they can fail like this, so gave it a bit of lubrication, I freed it up somewhat, and after a bit of playing around I did get it to work on the 4th setting, so I don't think settings from 1 to 3 had enough torque because it wasn't running as free as it should do. And when I did get it running, it was making so much noise it sounded like a grinder, so that tells me it's time to replace the blower motor. So before we move on to the repair, let's take a look at the part itself. So here we are, this is the new blower motor, and I went for a genuine BMW part for this one, so it's going to be a perfect fit and there shouldn't be any issues with any noise or anything like that. So this is going to be about as good as it gets, and the previous one had lasted approximately 35 years, so hopefully if we get anywhere near that with this one, I'll be happy with that. Now you've got to be careful when you're ordering a replacement blower motor for your E30 because there are some different types, and it's usually based on whether you've got the plastic or aluminium heater core pipes, which you can see at the bulkhead there, just like we took a look at when we were ordering the heater resistor. And the other thing is whether your E30 has got a pollen filter or not. But the best way to make sure that you do get the correct part is remove your existing one, have a good look at it and just match it to the new part, then you'll know you'll get exactly the correct part. What I did when I gained access to it previously in the previous video, I just looked back at that footage and I just matched it up like that to make sure I was going to get the correct one. Now then, there seems to be heaps of information out there on the steps required to change your heater blower motor on your E30 if it's a 6-cylinder model. Now this is a 4-cylinder model, it's the 318IS. It'll be the same for the 318Is also. It's slightly different because you've got a lot of cabling across the front of the bulkhead there before you can gain access to the plate that you need to remove to get at the blower motor. Now I've previously looked everywhere. I've even checked the Haynes manual, the Bentley manual, even the BMW proper repair procedures, and it all relates to the 6-cylinder models. There doesn't seem to be anything out there for the 4-cylinder models, but that's fine because today we're going to take a look at the steps required to get your blower motor changed out on your 4-cylinder E30. Let's get into it. Right, so first up we need to remove this plastic cover right here. So just a few plastic tabs holding this in place, so we'll carefully unclip it and remove the cover. Start at one end and work our way down. And that just lifts up and off this ledge here. We'll remove this plastic cover here. And now you can see we've got this harness right the way across the front of it here in the way, so this is what's going to cause us a few problems in gaining access to it. So we'll just start off by removing these cable ties just to be able to flex things out the way a bit easier. We'll just pull out this cable boot here, just leaving all the cables intact as we go. Remove this connector here. So just pop open the clip there and unscrew it. We've got these 3 relay positions to just pop up and out. And there's a small piece under here to slide out that's got the throttle cable attached to it. So now we've freed up just about everything off this plastic tray. So now we can remove the tray. There's just 3 Phillips head screws holding that in place. Now you don't really have to deal with all this on the 6-cylinder cars. I think it's just a small cable across the front, but you can pretty much gain access straight to the panel that's behind here, the access panel to the blower motor. But it's a little bit different on the 4-cylinder ones, but it's not a big deal. It all comes apart relatively easily. take the clip piece off first. So now we can fold that out of the way, and that's going to give us just that little bit of extra wiggle room. So now we can remove the access panel, and these bolts take a 7mm socket. There's one there, one down here. There's one right behind here. And then the last one at the top here. We'll remove the weather strip across the back of the engine bay. Now we can lift off the access panel here. So this is where our blower motor lives. That's it right there. This is where it's housed. Now, unlike many cars, you can access this from the engine bay here, which makes it so much easier. Even though there's a few bits and pieces to shift out the way before you get it, it's so much easier than pulling the dashboard out or half the bottom of the dashboard area there. Now, on the 6-cylinder models, you'll see that there's some like clear translucent plastic straps that hold these in, but the 4-cylinder one's different. We've just got these plastic bodies housing the motor there, so we need to remove these first to gain access to it. Now this comes apart like that in halves, and these break away in halves also. The clips can be quite difficult at the bottom there, at the bottom of that half, to undo. So use either a pocket screwdriver or a pick tool or something just to break those free. So I find if you undo the lower ones first, lift it up, the same style of clips at the top here, as you lift it up, will just undo as you go. So that's probably the easiest way to go about it. That's the first one off. This first half. That's what the housing looks like. And I find once you get this front section pulled out, it is quite difficult to release the clip back here. So once it's up like that, you got that release, just give it a twist, and that normally helps to pop it out. Right, so there we go. Now we have access to our blower motor. So just make a mental note at this stage, either take a picture, make a wee sketch, or just have a good look if you've got a good memory, but make sure you make a note of that orientation. It will only sit one way anyhow, just for when we fit the new one. So before we remove the motor, we need to disconnect these two wires, this one here, and there's just one up at the top there. And I should say these are going to be pretty tight because they've been on there a long time. And now with the two wires removed, we have this metal retaining clip here. So that's basically what's holding it in position. So if we unclip that from the bottom, that should release it. So that took a little bit of persuasion to get that undone, but it has been gripping this thing for 35 years. So what I did is just use this pick tool to try and manipulate it open, and then hooked it in the hole in the bottom. Just gave it a good pull, and eventually it released. And now we can carefully lift the old motor out. There we go. She's feeling pretty stiff and grindy. Right, let's get the new one in there. If we take a look down here, you can see our brand new resistor that we fitted the other day. So that's where it sits, looking at it from this perspective. And you guys want to know why I paid the extra money for a genuine BMW one? Well, it's them three words right there. Right, so remembering the orientation from the original one, we'll just carefully position this one in its home. And you'll know when it's in position because it'll only seat in one orientation. So there we are, that's firmly in position now. So we'll reattach our metal clip. As you can see, the clip's extremely tight, but she's in there now. She ain't moving, and hopefully she'll be good as gold for another 35 years. Right, so we can now reattach the two wires. So now that it's held in place, it's connected electrically, we can now refit the covers. and then reassemble everything back to where it was. So we do the inner ones first. And the outers. Now we can refit the bulkhead cover. Just make sure that's sitting nice and tight against the bulkhead before you tighten the bolts down. Just do the bolts sort of finger tight to start off with, so we can get a decent alignment before we nip her down. Make sure that's seated correctly, and then we'll tighten her up. Reposition the cable tray here. Just hook everything back on as we go. And how satisfying were them clicks. Now, there's one thing I've got to say that's really stood out to me working on this car in comparison to like the E46s, the E60, whatnot. Although I've been careful prying apart every little plastic clip and retaining piece, nothing's broken. The plastic on this is so much more different than on a modern car, and it takes me back to when I used to own cars like this back in the 90s. There certainly wasn't a problem with breaking plastic and plastic clips and that, so things were built differently back then. But this car, the build quality on this car is absolutely up there compared to what they're punching out nowadays. And it's a shame, really. It's really sad. Obviously everything's been marginalised just to maximise profits. But yeah, there's something real special about the E30. When you work on it, when you drive on it, when you operate all the doors, the bonnet, you get in and out of it, all the switch gear, you can just feel that German build quality from back in the day. Yeah, it's something special, and unfortunately it's something we don't experience with the BMWs nowadays. And at this stage it is just worth having a double check just to make sure everything's tightened down and positioned correctly, all the cables, you're not going to trap anything, there's nothing left unplugged or dangling down where it shouldn't be. That's all right. So now we're ready to reinstall the cover. So we're going to hook the upper edge just over the top first, and then just clip in the rest as we fold it down. There we go. So now with that nice and secure, we can now refit the weather strip for the bonnet. Right, so that's that all back together, all connected up, all ready to go. So all we need to do now is give it the big test. But before we do so, we'll just double check that fuse didn't pop since our last test. Looks good to me. Right, time for the big test. There we go, guys. It works on all 4 settings. What more do you want out of life? All right guys, so there we have it. I'm so pleased we've got that little problem sorted now. I've got nice fresh air, fresh ventilation, cold or hot, and it's another item ticked off from that pre-purchase inspection. So I've got a brand new blower motor in there. We've also got the resistor there from the previous video, so the whole system should be pretty much solid now for years to come. Very happy with that. Now if you found the video interesting or useful, don't forget to give it a like, and make sure you go and check out the rest of my YouTube channel for more BMW E30 content. Consider subscribing if that's your cup of tea. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.